So this is a really interesting, this is how to create a focus rich work environment. And what I focused on this specifically was the office, right? So this isn't like techniques for focus or kind of going too into the weeds. This is literally like your office setup because it's really important, especially more with the research done and everything. This is how you want to set up your office to give you the best chance at focusing. So what I'm going to start with first, and there's a couple elements to this, is like the office itself. So this is basically the agenda today, right? So I do 30 minutes of content, which is like the summaries of the research I've done this week, ADHD, non-ADHD, kind of through the whole lens. So 30 minutes of content. We're going to talk about the office itself. What does that look like? Where should your desk be positioned? I studied feng shui this week too. So really, I'd like to give you everything possible out there. And then we're going to talk a little bit about the sensory stuff because with ADHD, being neurodivergent, especially if you're in the autism spectrum like me, sensory stuff can be even more severe. And that's people with ADHD have severe sensory stuff too. It just depends on your flavor. We're going to talk about external distractions, setting boundaries, and then internal. What can you do for yourself? And then also a couple other things, how to keep your brain stimulated. If you've been on these calls or you're just joining, one thing we've talked about is our brain is chronically understimulated, which is why a lot of us do really well in stress and pressure. Hello, amazing entrepreneur, right? So we're chronically, not chronically, that sounds bad. Like we're just understimulated, which is why some people, if there's like some huge accident, let's say a car crash or something, we would be the one that would go call, here, you go do this. I'm going to stay with them. Here's how we're going to do this. Call 911. Okay, let's stop the bleeding there, right? We're going to get calm where other people, their dopamine spikes. It's too much. They freak out and they can't handle it because we have lower dopamine levels too, is what they've shown in studies. So for us, not having, and dopamine is that focus chemical. It's not that we just can't focus or something wrong with us. No, we just designed for high pressure sometimes and more stress and being able to stay calm, which is why we have like brain surgeons who have ADHD and performers and athletes and leaders in huge positions. And when you take someone who's wired like that, it's like, okay, go sit in office and answer some emails and do this admin work. It's hard and it's not our fault, right? So we want to add some accommodations to give us the best chance possible. The other thing I want to talk about is anxiety and motion regulation. Your office environment can affect that. And if we're looking to regulate our emotions and we need to calm anxiety, we're to the point where it gets really high, it's going to be harder to stay on that thing. So there's a lot of different elements. I'm going to talk about ergonomic workspace. And so I've really got the bullet points. We're going to crunch it all into 30 minutes to give you the bullet points and really be efficient here. So the office itself, number one, we want to look at a specific area that's dedicated as a workspace. So this could be in your office. This could be in your house. Something that's dedicated for that work where you get into that space and you're in work mode. That is important. If it's out in the open and there's all kinds of other stuff around, it's going to be more difficult. So again, this could be at your house or at your office. Now, the only caveat to this is with ADHD, we can do well with things that are new, right? We talked about INCUP, which stands for interesting, new, challenging, urgent, and passion. These are 5 things that create dopamine and light up an ADHD brain. Interesting, new, challenging, urgent, passion. So the caveat is sometimes we can do really well if we go to a random place that we've never been, like a coffee shop or a library, and we can focus because we all of a sudden it's new and we've got dopamine, and that's one of the focus chemicals. So it is good to have a dedicated workspace for things. And if you do well in a new environment, that's okay, right? That could be helpful too. So think about what you respond well to. So in the office itself, this is part of feng shui. And this is also, again, I compare multiple different articles because I'm a nerd like that. And I like to research a lot of things. So everything I found said it's really good to have natural light, kind of like duh, right? But if you can face a window or have that next to you, it's really helpful, especially with ADHD. Remember, we're lower in vitamin D levels. That's been scientifically proven. It's good for morale. Nature is really good for us. So if you can be by a window, it's really important. If you don't have a window, a painting of nature or UV light, you can have a light box. I grew up in North Dakota, so we used to have like seasonal affective disorder was huge there. So you can actually get light boxes that replicate that light and give you vitamin D. So if you don't have a window, there are ways to replicate that. Plants That's actually something I've seen in a lot of different articles, was having plants, some kind of greenery that can be really calming and really grounding. So if you don't have windows, you can still have plants if you have some type of UV light. Adjustable desk to sit or stand on. Some of you guys know I just moved, otherwise I'd do a tour, but I do have this adjustable desk, right? So when I get tired of sitting, I can stand. So we want to honor that instead of like, hey, you got to focus. What's wrong with you? Sit still. Yikes. We wouldn't say that to a kid, right? The other thing you can get is a yoga ball bouncy chair. So that's something else I have too. This is a yoga ball that's in a chair platform. So you can bounce and move if you're, especially if you're the hyperactive type, you need to move your body. So as you'll see as we go through this, the point is not to force yourself and shame yourself if you can't focus. It's to work with you and give yourself accommodations. Just like if you had a kid that you love, whether you have a kid or been a kid, which all of us have, right? What would you do for that kid if they had trouble focusing? You wouldn't like, slap them on the wrist and tell them to just try harder, right? You're going to give them things to help them and give them accommodations to make it easy, because shaming yourself is exhausting, right? You're going to have less energy. You're going to focus less. So by giving yourself certain things that can create movement while you're working, that can be helpful. Also, a walking treadmill. I have one as well. So you can, if you have an adjustable desk, you can raise it up and you can walk, like a quiet one. Mine's really quiet, and you can walk while you're doing what you're doing. What I want to say too, if you don't have a lot of money, most of this stuff I got all used on Facebook Marketplace. So you don't have to go out and buy some brand new thing. Don't do that if you don't have the money. Actually, what's interesting, I'm in the middle of a move. I gave myself a challenge where everything I'm adding into my house has to be free. So I got a free dining room table, a free dresser. So if you go on Facebook Marketplace and you put free in whatever it is, you would be blown away at what they have. So that's my challenge this month, and it's going well. And I just need a entertainment center at this point. So again, I'm not telling you to go buy a bunch of this stuff. Don't do that. You can get so much at a discount or for free. I think the walking treadmill I paid like $30 for, and it's normally like $250. So be frugal with this stuff if you don't know if it's going to work for sure or not. But get stuff that allows you to move instead of just having to sit still in a seat. A white noise machine is really helpful. Earplugs, noise canceling headphones. Invest in those. These are Bose. These are the 2 generations ago, but they're my favorite. These cut out noise. You can use them without music on. So remember, we take in extra stimulus with ADHD, and we have 10 times the amount of thoughts as someone without. So we're constantly taking in tons of stimulus, which can be really great, when we're looking for details or we're creating and all kinds of stuff. And when you're looking to focus, we get 10 times the amount of thoughts someone else. We have lower impulse control, which is good. It makes us less risk averse, which makes us entrepreneurs. And at the same time, we're going to be able to jump to things way quicker without even being able to stop it. So we want to eliminate any kind of stimulus so we're not overwhelmed. So this was one thing in feng shui, and I saw it a lot of other places, having your desk in what they call the command position. So if you can, not having it just face against a wall. If you can have it face outward, so the wall is to your back, where there's a flow of energy around the desk, is something that a lot of people will find value in. Also, if you don't want the door coming to the side. Now, again, if your office is the only way, it's fine. But they talk about having the door in front of you, so you're not having to look. You don't have that burst of energy that can kind of throw you off. So if you can face a door or look at a door versus having it behind you or to the side of you, but really that command position out in the open can be helpful. It's also going to give you space to move and stand up and not feel closed in. So the other thing I want to talk about is like visually, like having things that help you. So a vision board, like your why, something that makes you happy, a special interest, your family, something that's like the reason you're doing this can be helpful as well. What you don't want, and this kind of ties into the anxiety piece, what you don't want is having these goals or these things in front of you that you made that actually aren't realistic. And every time you look at them, you feel anxious or you feel shame. Right? So if you've got something, pay attention to what you're looking at when you're doing that, because, and I'm going to jump forward because I think this just ties in. The thing with emotion regulation for us is sometimes we'll go to other stuff as a pattern interrupt and not even realize it. So I'm going to give you an example. So I also have OCD, and my friend was in the car and was like, you change radio stations like crazy, just constantly, not in a judgmental way. You know, it was like, whoa. And I realized it wasn't because I didn't want to listen to the song anymore. It's because I was having repetitive thoughts, and changing to a different station was a pattern, right? So it's like, oh, I don't like that. So I was changing the radio station over, because kind of getting myself to distract myself. So the point of this is, if you've got stuff around your office that makes you feel anxious or shame, even if it's goal stuff or whatever, what can happen is subconsciously you go to self-soothe and distract yourself. Okay. And then now we're on another trail because we have our working memories are impaired. That's why we walk into the room to go get a glass of water. We're thirsty, and we see the laundry we didn't done. We pick up the laundry, we go to the laundry room, we realize we don't have laundry detergent. So we walk upstairs to write on the list on the fridge that we need laundry detergent. We realize we haven't eaten yet. Then we turn the stove on. Then somebody calls. Then we forget all the other stuff. We go take the call. We're still thirsty. The stove is on. We haven't done the laundry, right? So we have a brain that goes like this, which is incredible, which is why so many are successful. And we really want to make sure that we pull back any of that diverting to other things. That's really, really important with that. And I'll talk a little bit more about the emotion regulation in a bit too, because from a coach's perspective, that's really important. The other thing that some people mentioned was a break corner. So has anybody had a break? They didn't actually take a break. They took phone calls or working lunch. It's not really a break. So if you have a space in your office, let's say it's not at home, it's at the office, where there's soft blankets. Remember, we're sensory. We pick up way more sensory. So if it's soft blankets, if it's candles or incense, it's a journal, pillows, a yoga mat, something to stretch out, coloring book activity, something that's not your phone, ideally, because that's more stimulus and it's not really a break. Sometimes it doesn't calm us down. It depends, again, that might be the thing you want. You want to watch a video. Again, it just depends on what flavor of ADHD you have. So having a break corner, if you're working at an office, is helpful, where you actually take a break. And for some of us, we really need breaks. Like, we really, really need it. Other people, other ones of us, again, our brains are all different, might do better just kind of go, go, go. There are some people like that. There are some people that really need a break that will prevent burnout, right? Especially if you are not where you want to be on your numbers and you're pushing yourself so hard and you don't take a break, you are going to burn out, and it's not going to be sustainable because you're adding an extra layer of anxiety on it. So we really want a break if you're the type of person that needs it. Some people don't. So again, we talked about this before. What I say is could be wrong for you, could be right. Have your own discernment, and that's with anyone, right? Any human will say stuff that's helpful or not. Whoever it is, have your own discernment on that and figure out what works for your brain, And that's saying, like, if somebody says, "Ooh, the only way to be successful is to do it this way," that's a red flag. The only way to lead generate is this way. Red flag. That's not true. So then, speaking of distractions in the office, avoid papers everywhere. If you've got things you got to do or piles of stuff, that is going to pull you off. It's going to create more anxiety, and you're going to need to do something to regulate that. Clutter. Stuff on desk, that was on every single article I read, feng shui, productivity, blogs, all kinds of stuff. So here's the thing for that. Have you ever had that where there's stuff all over your desk and it's like, okay, I need to focus, but what am I going to do with the stuff on my desk? It's going to take me forever to figure out what to do with it. Now I got decision paralysis of where to put it. Get a bin, like a Rubbermaid, a clear one, ideally. If you use Rubbermaids organized, get clear ones, like the big ones, because you can see in them instead of having to remember. And just take everything on the desk and put it in the bin for now. We really want to make the focus a priority if you have that thing you want to do. So that's one thing, is get a bin as a catch-all. So you're not stuck in paralysis of where this goes or where this needs to be, that kind of stuff. So do that. And maybe you have one for papers too. Have one where it's just papers, and maybe you have a keep for later, and then you have another one that's like has to be dealt with this week. Get something simple where it doesn't derail your, okay, I'm going to focus. Oh shoot, So again, move stuff out of the way. In that command position of your desk, you want to be looking at stuff you need to do. You really want to be a clear view if you possibly can. Close the tabs. Does anybody else have like tons of tabs open on their computer like I do? Yeah, close those tabs. Oh yeah, oh yeah. Close those tabs. Open a new window where you can't even see them. Make sure that it's hard for you to get distracted. You're giving yourself the best advantage possible. Your phone. So move your phone. Set a timer on here because again, we have a lot of us have time blindness, right? Trouble like trouble gauging how long it's been or what time it is, how that kind of stuff. So move your phone where you can't just pick it up. What we're eliminating is this impulse control that's in an instant and all of a sudden it's too late, So if you really truly are focusing, set an alarm so you can just let go and get in flow. You're not checking what time it is, set two of them just if you're worried about missing it. And then move the phone where you have to get up to get the phone. Okay, really, really important. Move the phone away because for a lot of us, that's our biggest distraction. Have snacks with you, like water, things, so you don't have to like get up, have that close by. So because again, we can get derailed when we go to the water fountain and we see somebody and then, oh my gosh, it's 2 hours later, or we're hungry because having low blood sugar is very hard to focus as well. So what about if you're sitting there? Does anybody have that and you're focusing and you've just got thoughts? Anybody experience that? They're just coming in. Oh, I forgot to do this. I have to remember this. I forgot to call this Pat. Okay. So there's a technique called the parking lot technique. This is by a therapist actually that we had on a while back. So you take sticky notes and every time you have something that you forgot or you need to do, you're going to write them on the sticky note and you're going to put them on the desk. That's your parking lot. So you're parking all these tasks right there. So instead of us going to do this thing or going to a to-do list on our phone, we have a parking lot of activities. And then when you're done with what you were doing, then you can go back to the parking lot. And when you do those things, you can crumple it up and throw it away. And it's really satisfying. So have a way like a to-do list or like sticky notes for a parking lot. So when we are going to focus, because probably what's going to happen is right when you sit down to focus, you might have this influx of all these things that you might have forgot because it's the first time you're actually sitting still and it's like bombarding you with all these things you forgot to do. So capture that because if you try to remember it, you're gonna have to repeat it yourself over and over again, most likely. And because I've done that, I don't know if anybody else does. And we want to clear up your brain to really, truly focus. So the parking lot is really, really helpful in that. So I want to talk a little bit about the sensory stuff. Especially I want to talk a little bit about an ergonomic workspace and what that means too. So sensory stuff. Is anybody sensitive to light, to sounds, to textures? Okay. Does anybody, when somebody's eating like lunch and learns, anybody struggle to actually learn when there's a lunch and learn and you have somebody crunching chips next to you? It's like, okay, some people, I don't even want to go to lunch and learns because all I can hear is the chips, right? So what can happen, and this is really interesting, is that our brains prioritize sound differently and stimulus. So for someone who does not have ADHD, what studies show is that they can their brain automatically hears certain sounds louder or softer, right? So if they're at a training, there's a lunch and learn, their brain can kind of make the crunching noises quieter and focus and prioritize on the speaker. And so it's fine. That's why lunch and learns exist because it's only 3 to 10% of the population has ADHD. Whereas for us, our brain doesn't necessarily do that. We kind of hear everything at the same level. So we're hearing the crunching, we're hearing the person talking, we're hearing somebody mow the lawn outside, we're hearing somebody that keeps coming in and out of the door for the bathroom. It's the person next to us is chewing gum. The other person's like tapping their foot and we feel the vibration on the desk. So it's like the lights are too bright, the chair is uncomfortable, and we're feeling it all at the same level. And so no wonder we can't focus, right? Like it makes a lot of sense. And so that's why it's really, really important to honor that with what you're doing. And so if the lighting is too bright, which we can also, I mean, especially if you're on the autism spectrum, which there's a lot of overlap with ADHD and autism. So it could be both. The light might be 5 times brighter for you with the way your brain perceives it than someone else. The temperature, make sure that you're comfortable in temperature. If you're too cold, that feeling of feeling too cold, we're not gonna be able to quiet that as much as someone else. We might pick up on it more. Or if you're too hot, If your clothing is too tight, if it's too itchy, if your belt is too tight, if your shoes are uncomfortable, these are all stimulus that are going to be working at the same time. So we want to really give you the best chance. We want the lighting to be maybe not overhead lighting, maybe lamps. Your clothing, you want to be cotton, you want to breathe. We want the temperature to be a good temperature for you. And then I want to talk about an ergonomic workspace. So this is really important. I'm actually going to give I'm going to show you an image on this of what this looks like. Has anyone heard of ergonomic before, or ergonomic workspace? We've done that. So this is what this is. I'm going to do a screen share on here. Okay. So what this is you can see the image there. This is an ideal ergonomic workspace. So it's going to help your sitting posture. And it's going to keep the monitor at your eye level. So you'll see you want the monitor to kind of be, and we'll send this out. So this shows you want to be at a 90-degree angle with your elbows. You're going to be sitting with your feet flat on the floor. You might have a backrest. So it's really, what it's doing, it's really supporting your body. So part of why this can be important is with ADHD, some of us, there's a larger percentage are more likely to have hypermobility stuff. Or autoimmune, or like POTS. There's all kinds of different things where histamine intolerance, but the hypermobility is really common. I actually have a microbiologist that studied in the UK who's a naturopath who specializes in hypermobility and things like this for ADHD that I'm looking at having coming on. But having correct posture, because when you have hypermobility, if you overextend something, and we're generally more tense. We have more shoulder stuff, that kind of stuff. So having a correct posture can be really helpful for us to focus more because we're more comfortable. We're not uncomfortable. Our body's supported. We're not overextending. So that is a ergonomic workspace right there. And you don't have to buy a bunch of stuff. You could do this. You just need to get the ratios. So you could Google that. We'll also send that out. So ergonomic workspace will be very, very. Okay, so then I want to talk about boundaries with others. And then we're going to talk about how to keep our brain stimulated and some other things. So boundaries with others. So does anybody puts their phone on silent and then worried that somebody else is going to call, or you're going to miss something? Oh, you're going to miss a lead. Oh, yeah. So what can be really helpful is if you change your voicemail. So what you can do is you can say, hey, especially if you have a certain time of day that you focus. So we usually have peak productivity hours. Some people that might be in the evening, some people it might be in the morning, that kind of stuff. And so what you really want to do is figure out what that is. And if you can, what you can do is you can put on your voicemail. You can say, hey, thanks so much for calling. This is Tyler Elstrom with Keller Williams. I'll be in meetings from 10 to 11:30 Eastern, and I'll be returning calls from 12 to 12:30 and 4 to 4:30, as well as 6 to 6:30. Please text me if this is an emergency, something like that, right? So you could do it something like that. Again, in general, you could have 2 work hours, you could have, or callback times. What that does, if you get a new lead, one, it makes it look like you have business, right? It's professional. And if somebody calls you off of a sign call, what's going to happen is they're going to say, oh, they're going to call me back in an hour. I'll wait. Versus they just get your voicemail. They don't know if you're going to call them back, and they go to the next one. So I would say, just in general, honestly, I hope you're not on your phone 24/7. I would have callback times at least, or something on your voicemail that knows they're going to call you back, knows that you're going to call them back. That's just helpful for leads, because you can change it every day. That can seem, hey, thanks for calling. Today is Tuesday, September 10th. I'll be in meetings till this time. So that's something I did. You have to remember to do it every day, though, and in the morning. So again, you may not want to do that. However, it can seem like you're really on top of it. But I would leave a voicemail, and then you're not worried. Right? Another one that a lot of agents do is they put a sign on their door. So what it says is, focusing on my one thing. I'm focusing. If it's $10 to charity if you disturb me and that building's not on fire or it's not an emergency. So you can make it funny, but have a sign on your door that these are your focus hours, because, oh my gosh, when it could be your coworkers, it could be your family, your kids, you really want to train people that you are here to focus. And you can make it funny, but put a sign on your door, because someone's going to knock, and what do? Pretend you're not there? No, you're going to say, yeah, what's up? And then we've got the task switching, right? Which is something that that can be harder for us. And that's task switching, going from one task to a next and then going to back to the last one. That's difficult for, I think, everyone, if you get interrupted, but it's even more so for us. And it takes more for us to get back and focus. So you really want to avoid the task switching. So we talked a little bit about the sensory stuff, soundproofing the walls. If you're in an office, you can get stuff on Amazon, or again, check on Facebook Marketplace or wherever for foam that can soundproof stuff. Or maybe you do some of your important work or your calls in the car. I have clients who do it in the car as well, because there's no sound. So yeah, turn your phone on silent as well. Turn off notifications. And then we talked about setting an alarm on your phone, so you don't wonder what time it is. You can really let go. Have an end time and let that be good enough. So have you ever said, okay, I need to do this, and you get in the flow and you do it and you complete the task, and I'm gonna push myself to keep going. Has anybody done that? Or you just keep making yourself go instead of being like, wow, I'm proud of you. You did it. That's awesome. You earned a break. You can go drink water. You can go talk to your friends. We tend to be really hard on ourselves and perfectionists. And sometimes it's like hard to make us do stuff. And so when we finally do, it's like, oh my gosh, I don't want to lose this momentum. I have all this stuff backed up. When am I going to have the motivation to do this again? So I'm just going to push. What you're doing is the next time when you say, hey, brain, I want you to focus, then we'll be done. The brain says, haha, yeah, right. We played this before. You didn't give me a break. I'm going to get squirrely. So you gotta train your brain to trust yourself, if that makes sense. And if you are in the mode and it feels really good, you can keep going. So have that discernment of if you're pushing yourself to grind, or if it really is okay for you to stop and you really do need a break. And then, okay, I'm gonna go through this fast. So keeping your brain stimulated. So coffee, right, is a stimulant. So if you're not on medication, or you do okay with a stimulant medication and coffee, coffee is a stimulant, and it can help an understimulated brain. So you can sip on coffee. Another one is sipping on orange juice, like some kind of natural sugar, but sip, not gulp. This is from, I'm spacing his name right now, but this is one of the leading scientists in ADHD research. And so he talks about sipping orange juice because sugar creates dopamine. So fidget toys, right? We've got all kinds of fidget toys that you can hold, little, bean bags, silly putty, Aaron Silly Putty. We might have him on, actually. We have Michelle Beaver connected me. And this company is completely owned and employed by all neurodivergent employees. So we've got people on the autism spectrum, ADHD, so we'll probably involve them at some point. So have fidget toys that just help you kind of fidget while you're working. Essential oil diffuser. They've shown that peppermint, so these are scents that can create focus, and you can Google it too. Peppermint, rosemary, frankincense, lemon, cypress, eucalyptus. So these are all things that can promote focus. So you might have essential oil diffuser. Walk or exercise beforehand. So, and you might have some movement breaks. So again, exercise and walking can actually stimulate the frontal lobe and different parts of the brain that are understimulated by ADHD. And it can be one of the best natural things to help with ADHD. So you might have movement breaks. You might stretch, relax your shoulders, right? A lot of us can have, like I said, hypermobility, which is basically our muscles are hypermobile. So they can overextend, where yoga can be helpful for some of us, and for some of us with hypermobility, actually we're too flexible. If you can do weird stuff with your fingers, or your knees or your toes can move and a little bit more flexible than other people, it could be something that you have. I've had chronic shoulder issues, and it turns out it was too flexible. Instead of working so long at getting flexible, it was making it worse. And then what I want to say is rewards for getting things done. So reward yourself. We do well with dopamine. In general, yes, pain is a great motivator, like getting away from pain. That's a motivator. It's also stressful. If that's why we're doing stuff, is to go away from pain. Going towards pleasure and fun stuff, that's a fun thing. That's the kind of environment and the motivation I want. I want to go towards things I want. And so you might have something, I'll give you kind of a example. So I grew up watching Ninja Turtles. I never really got them. We didn't have a lot of money, which is okay. My mom was awesome. But now when I do the newsletter, I get to go to like this vintage Ninja Turtle place, and I have this like nerdy collection that's really fun for me. And it's something I would never buy. I get $10 every newsletter. I would never go buy that, right? It's not logical, but it's this really fun thing that makes me do this newsletter that then helps a lot of people. So don't be afraid to like have little rewards, things that you would never buy if it's like little kids stuff, whatever, you know what I mean? Or maybe it's a treat, or maybe it's a coffee or a dessert, or a bath or tea or something. Maybe you want to save money and you don't do something money, right? It's something you're doing for self-care. But get little rewards in there and celebrate the wins. A lot of us can do way more at celebrating the wins and recognizing how much we're doing versus just push, push, push. And I know we're about time at the content. So what I'm going to talk about too is music. So some of us, again, do well with music. It could be classical music. They have ADHD focus music. So you could type ADHD focus music in YouTube, in iTunes, and Spotify. There is a playlist, and I'm telling you, it works really well. So if you have your noise, that's what I do on the newsletters. I put the noise canceling headphones in and put on ADHD focus music, and it can really help because it works with like your different waves in your brain that actually are responsible for focus. So there's that. Let's see. And then self-soothing. So this is something I talked about a little bit with the radio stations and like pattern interrupts. A lot of times, a lot of us as agents have anxiety or shame or not doing good enough, that kind of stuff. We can't do lead gen, and a lot of it can come back to needing to regulate our nervous system. So I talked about this, like when I coach coaches, what I talk about is don't push someone really, really hard if they're totally unregulated, because you're just going to stress them out. They're going to spin out and have a lot of shame. So pay attention to how you are when you come into it. If you're coming in and you're super dysregulated and you're in kind of fight or flight, or you get anxiety and you expect yourself to focus before calming, that's not really fair to yourself or your nervous system. And so pay attention of where you're at just in your body before you start at this focus thing, because it might be that you need to pull it back for a second and regulate or process wherever you're at, so that's something I want to throw in there too. And if you try to focus and it doesn't work, that doesn't mean you can't focus or you suck at it or whatever. No, it's a practice. So try different things that work for you. One person might need low lighting and really calming music and candles. And then the next person might need loud music to get revved up. And they need a standing desk or a walking desk, and they're running and they're high-fiving people, and they've got all these vision boards. Two very different environments. Both are going to be best for that person. So again, you really want to pay attention to what is best for you. So that is what I have for today. That's my content. Send me a message if you have any feedback. And yeah, really appreciate you guys, and have a wonderful day. Thank you for everything you do, for sharing, for vulnerability. And we'll talk to you next week. All right. Have a good one, everybody.